And recording, do you
This
need
meeting is
any?
being recorded.
Looks like you are. Hello, my name is Jay Carpenter. I'm founder of Star Camps, and today is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2024. It's 7 p.m. Pacific time, and this is our weekly community session where we take about a half an hour and we talk about updates to Star Camps and what's coming up in terms of events, answer any questions, and so forth. So we've got a few people on the session, and yeah. So let me talk a little bit about what Star Camps is. This is new. I think it's has multiple dimensions that are very interesting, but it's basically about an opportunity to create things among the community. It's an opportunity to experiment in privacy, identity, creativity, all sorts of things. So it's coming together well, and we're just in sort of a prototype mode at this point. But I want to show you a few things, and I also want to talk about what's coming up next week. We're going to have uh, an event, actually a 2-day event, basically, at the Internet Archive. So on Tuesday, August the 27th at 5 p.m., we'll open the doors and have like a hour-long social hour. We'll have dinner at 6, and then at 7, we'll have about an hour and a half of presentations where we're going to be talking about Star Camps and about braid.org, which is state synchronization, and we'll also be talking about Google Docs, which basically Braid is an open source way to do Google Docs state synchronization without Google. So that should be a hint of that tonight when we go through a few examples. So, but then the following day on the 28th, Wednesday, from 11 a.m. in the morning till about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, we're going to have a build session where we'll have lunch provided, we'll do some socializing, maybe a presentation or two, and then around 1 o'clock, we'll break off into teams and start to play with Star Camps, Google Slides, Google Docs, maybe Braid, and see what we can create. Because we've got an opportunity to have some fun with this thing. So I was having fun with it today, and I'm really excited to show you what's available. So let me do some screen sharing here, and we'll give you an idea of what this is all about. So, and by the way, some of you should have received an email today, and in that email, I've got some highlights of what we're going to go over here. So if you've sent me if you've emailed me, you are part of a distribution list where you're getting this Google Slides, which the link should not change. So each week, even though it looks like it's the same Google Slides, there's something new in the content. But you should be getting this in the notes of a calendar invite for this session or either the in-person sessions. And we're going to keep it to 30 minutes. This is your direct link. No need to explain that. And this is a recording of last week's session where we went over a little bit of PGP tool, encrypting, decrypting messages. We'll talk about that a little bit. Here's the table of contents. It's expanded since last week, and there's some links to various slides. Won't go over that. But here basically are 3 things that we might play around with on the 28th when we have our build session. I think we've got an opportunity to solve a problem that many of us have had and still have without this solution set. But whenever we move our residences or change emails, change phone numbers or whatever, we have to propagate that out to numerous different endpoints where all that information resides. Well, with the tools that are at hand here with StarCamps as well as Braid.org, and possibly Google Docs, but let's call it state synchronization, universal state synchronization. We might be able to create a prototype, and we might be able to do this next Wednesday, the 28th, where we change our information in one location and it propagates out to multiple endpoints. Just in a very rough fashion, but that's the type of power that's at hand with StarCamps, with Braid.org, etc. The other thing that we might start to experiment with is transitioning or giving enterprises and organizations, institutions, a graceful path to transition from the legacy centralized networks to decentralized Web3. Why? Well, because daily we are seeing security breaches that are growing in number, growing in frequency. And I have done a presentation, and this is on www.starcamps.net on the second slide presentation. But I've done a presentation talking about how our centralized networks are failing. And I think that if you look at what's the performance has been in Web3, particularly Stellar in the Ukraine, it makes a very compelling point that, hey, it's time to transition off the centralized networks into Web3 decentralized networks. The other big thing is authenticity of identity and public keys, which also goes into state. But I've come up with a little saying that some of you may be familiar with, which is, not your keys, not your coins, right? So this is about custodial versus non-custodial wallets. But basically, there's a saying that says, hey, if you don't control your cryptographic keys for your coins, they're not really your coins. Well, StarCamps has expanded that to, if it's not your keys, not your cryptographic keys, then it's not your privacy. If it's not your cryptographic keys, it's not your security. If it's not your cryptographic keys, it's not your identity. And if it's not your cryptographic keys, it is not your state. And by state, I mean network state. So this is really turning into an experiment where the authenticity, the control of your cryptographic keys can open up new dimensions for your security, your identity, and you controlling the integrity around your network state. So that's a little bit about what's on the table. We're certainly not restricted to that, but that just kind of gives you a sense of what we can be working on Wednesday. So this is another key piece that's been developed, which is the campsites directory. And this is really, really important. And I'd like to show you something really quick, which is these are two campsites that have been assigned, actually three. One to me at 1111 StarCamps JC, and another one to Matt, who was on our session last week, who was on video, interacted on video. And by the way, if you get on video and you interact on one of these sessions, that opens the gateway for you to create a StarCamps campsite just like this. But check this out. So I'm going to reduce the, you can go to this, and many of you have the ability to do this in the email that was sent out this evening, but you can actually click on this campsite, which is Matt's, and now you can go to his campsite, which I'll show you in just a moment, and I'll go ahead and expand this. So it looks very similar to the Zoom community Zoom announcement, but if you look just below the logo, you'll see that this actually constitutes a campsite. And sorry, it's loading very slowly. But this is the beginning of the community creating their own space, basically, that's built around this identifier. And in this case, you can see it's both machine friendly in the numeric form of 1111782722266288, which means nothing to us humans. But then when you put the lettering to it, 1111 Star Camps Matt G, all of a sudden it starts to take on sort of a personality. And this tells you a little bit about Matt, and this could be customized and added to. This is Matt's public key. Actually, this is a generic public key that's not secure at all. Don't rely upon this. But you can take this public key and you can create a message to Matt using the pgptool.org. And here you can actually download the public key in a file format. Here's a hash, which is sort of like a fingerprint of authenticity of the public key. And you can check whatever public key you have in your possession against this hash and make sure that it is actually Matt G's public key in Star Camps. And then you can also download it via QR code. So numerous ways to get Matt's public key with a high degree of assurance that it is Matt's, because you can do your own validation by running that fingerprint on it. Now, what also is on here is the secret key. And this is, again, a generic secret key, and you wouldn't normally publish your secret key like this. That would be insane. But for this demonstration, the secret key is a chance for everybody to play around with these campsites. And here's the passphrase, very secret 1 2 3 4 5. And again, you can put the secret key and the public key into pgptool.org, and you can actually encrypt messages. And here's the QR code for the secret key. And that's exactly what I've done. So this is a message to Matt that any of you watching this video can decrypt using that public key, secret key, and then the passphrase 1 2 3 4 5. You can copy this, throw it into pgptool.org and decrypt it and see what it says. And I invite you to do that just as kind of a fun thing. But what this demonstrates is this is actually, in a very, very fundamental, crude form, this is actually a complete social network now. We can start to encrypt messages to other campsites, other campers, and then this will be, you will be able to paste these encrypted messages on these Google Slides so that the recipient can decrypt it at their leisure. And that's a really, really important piece of this, is we have the ability to create messages, encrypt them, decrypt them, send them around to other campsites, other campers. And I think we're going to have a blast doing that on Wednesday, the 28th at the Internet Archive. So that's what sort of emerged today. This is pgptool.org. You can play with that. Plan to create a Patreon site so that we can do further messaging. There's also a monetization expressions and so forth, and then you can basically charge for that. This again is a little video that I did, which shows you how to use pgptool.org. We plan to incorporate Bitwarden, and I like to run everything on Raspberry Pis so that it's as close to the hardware as possible, which adds a high degree of confidence and security in my mind. So that's about it for the campsite. And now I'm going to go back to the announcement, which has this campsites directory. But this, I'm really excited about this because within this context, within this very rough arrangement, we can actually start to exchange encrypted messages among ourselves, among the community. So this is a list of the people that have expressed interest in being in the community. And again, you can see that I've got a campsite, or I've got a handle there indicated in blue by the link. And then Matt has a campsite and a handle in the blue because he was on the session last week and basically interacted. And you can see Matt, you can hear him, he's a real person, and that's really important. So these are all the folks, and this is just an example of how you can take your existing cell phone number and create your first camp that's actually yours, assuming that you can basically prove to me at this point that you control that cell phone number. Now, the camps are not cell phone numbers, but the cell phone number is the ticket in order to create a cell camp, which you will control. And then here's an example of some camp identifiers that we could create and play with on Wednesday. 1111 internet, and it doesn't have to be 1111. It could be 9999 or anything between 4 zeros and 4 nines. But that gives you an idea of the human friendliness of the identity piece for the camps and the campsites. This is the stack I'm proposing. Here's our schedule as it stands now, just in a summary form. But let me go into detail. So this is what's going to be happening on Tuesday at the Internet Archive. At 5 p.m., the doors will open, and we'll have just kind of a social hour. 6 p.m., we'll serve dinner, and if you're hungry, maybe a little sooner. And then at 7, we'll start some presentations about Braid.org, Google Docs, Star Camps, proposed projects, answer questions, have kind of a, community time, and then wrap it up by 8:30. Then the next day, Wednesday at 11 a.m., we'll also meet at the Internet Archive and have an hour for socializing, maybe some short talks, and then lunch at 12 where people can get to know one another. And then at 1 o'clock, we'll break into teams of 5, and we'll start to see what we can build from this very starting point of public keys, private keys, camps that are embodied by slides on Google Slides and so forth. And talk about, whatever creative ideas come up. 3:30, the teams will kind of present, and we'll wrap it up by 4. So this is some Zooms. That was last week's with Matt there on the left. And then this was my presentation at DWeb Camp on Universal Unified Identity and State, which is a fundamental overarching idea for Star Camps, and possibly what Braid will introduce in a decentralized manner. And this is our first session, which was recorded at the Internet Archive the evening before DWeb Camp. This is just kind of a funny set of imaginary figures and laying out the possibility of, hey, we could do this anywhere in the world, even Antarctica. And what if we invited, Stellar.org to participate, Ethereum, Filecoin, and pretty much, any other Web3 ecosystem that's interested, invite them. And also maybe a a institution that many of us are familiar with that happens to make copies of the internet each day, that is not a blockchain or Web3 construct itself, but is very interested in decentralization. We could invite them to join this initiative as well. So let's see. That's my contact information, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to stop the screen share and open it up for any questions. I would like to say one other thing. This is, thank you, Thelma. This is designed, this is not your typical open source project where you just kind of participate without any expectation of monetization. This has elements that are designed so that if you participate, you have an opportunity to monetize your participation in numerous ways. And we'll go over that on Tuesday. But much like the introduction of Bitcoin or Ethereum, if you were in those ecosystems early in the going, there were some very interesting opportunities to create value for yourself. So there's 3 constructs to this: trust, control, and value. And those are the 3 elements that I keep in mind all the time and that I'm committed to delivering to the StarCamps community. So let's see. Any other questions? All right. Well, hopefully you can see that this is taking shape. You can see that there is something real to play with. There's something fun to play with. I was telling somebody earlier today, it's kind of like the fun, when you're in 2nd grade and you make a little secret note and pass it over to your friend across the aisle. We can do that now in a much more sophisticated way, obviously, but I've been having fun with it today doing that. So I hope you will as well. You'll start to see a glimmer of some really interesting possibilities here. So thanks for participating. I am going to turn off the recording, and we will see you next week, hopefully at the Internet Archive, and then the following September 3rd will be our next 7 p.m. community session. So let's see. Okay. Oh, she actually. Okay, so Thelma actually started the recording, and it's out of my control. So I've lost the second element of control, which is cool. But anyway, so thanks for your time and attention, and stay tuned for more interesting